Bonjour tout le monde. Welcome to Breakfast Central. This beautiful, terrific Tuesday morning. You're welcome to the best way to start your day. On television, Breakfast Central will bring you everything you need and more when it comes to insightful discussions, news analysis, newspaper review, top stories, name it. We give it to you, we dissect it with high intelligence and high sense.
It's a powerful answer.
Oui.
I didn't realize you were starting with French. And I'm going to polish a bit of my French or Espanol, so that I can have a conversation. So make it a multilingual show.
It's a global show.
A global show.
Being watched by people around the world.
Okay.
Yes.
Bienvenue, Breakfast Central. Je m'appelle Olive. Let's leave it at that. I don't want to intimidate your answer because he's being a nice speaker of the French. What's left for him to speak? But welcome to Breakfast Central. This morning, we will be following up with some of the stories that we discussed yesterday in the papers, and then bringing you some fresh perspectives as well. Remember to engage with us on YouTube at News Central TV. We're streaming live, and we love to see and take your comments from time to time. I am Olive Emodi, and you're welcome.
Well, that's the first line of every politician.
They're using it to think of the next line.
To lie. The next Zubu to give
Every politician has that line. Go and check it, fact check it. Well, welcome. That's all I can say. It's been a very interesting 12 or 24 hours, if we put it that way, since we left. And by the way, just in case you did not know, News Central is 24 hours now. So you can watch the news at 12, at 3, at 6,
and
name
when you wake up in the night to
24
go for
hours.
You want to
catch up on stuff that have happened. Maybe when you wake up to go for meeting in the midnight and you realize that your fellow people did not come for meeting, just turn on the
politicians always, a lot of them do their meetings.
The same way witches do their meetings.
That's why women talk, when you talk about women inclusion in politics,
that's
a lot of them complain.
Remember we had a guest who had said that she said it was hard when she wanted to be in politics, that they would call her at the late hours of the night and say we're meeting at
and it's always hotels
at 2 a.m. and she was like, how am I going to tell my husband that I have to be at the hotel with fellow men?
But guess what?
And
these fellow men do not need to tell their wives that they are going to be in hotel.
No, they tell them. They tell them. I mean, for security reasons.
You see the imbalance that we're talking about.
If you want to go by this thing, you see, it's hard. Women in politics.
You admit that it's harder for women. Because
for them
for the men, understandable.
It's harder.
It's
understandable. It's harder because of the system. It's harder because of the way the system has been built or set. Naturally, or I would say normally, people view men as the workers, those who have to provide, those who have to go out there and get the job done. I mean, from time immemorial,
traditional roles.
That's how it's been from way back. So if a woman says, "Okay, I also want to go out and get the job done," it's recommended. It's
encouraged.
It's encouraged. But when it comes to politics,
I have a lot of things to say.
Don't say anything. Don't say anything. Let's be honest.
And time for us to have this conversation. So
we'll talk about women in politics.
Let's move on to other conversations that would not require arguments.
Absolutely.
Well, there is a video that's making the rounds on social media. It's a very disheartening, disturbing video. Highly irresponsible video. And this is not the first time we've seen a video like this. We've seen it in different variations. Sometimes you're seeing people encouraging children to smoke or sending them to go and buy things that they'll be using for extracurricular activities. This time is a video of a woman feeding her child alcoholic substance, saying that she has to do this, or writing it in text that she has to do this every night just for her to sleep. So you see her tear open the sachet, she drinks from it, then she puts it in this innocent little child's mouth. And you can see the child tasting it. She drinks some more and gives the child some more. This is the height of irresponsibility. The fact that you're silly enough to do this, and sillier enough to film it, and silliest to put it on social media makes us realize that they don't even realize that what they've done.
Silliest.
Exactly. They don't realize that what they've done is a crime. You are abusing this small child. This child that did not ask to be introduced to alcohol. You're giving this child an illegal substance to consume. And the police, I know the police was on the hunt for her. I don't know if they've arrested her yet. I know the last information I saw was saying that if they had anyone that had useful information about how the mother could be arrested, that there was a number for the police had put out a number for people to call and share. But that's the height of responsibility. It says here, we are aware of this distressing video and are investigating urgently. Exposing a child to alcohol is illegal and dangerous. We urge Chuks Eric E., who was the person who posted the video, and any member of the public with valuable information that could lead to the swift apprehension of this mother to not hesitate to provide same. They can reach out to us on 091-699-67000. The child safety is our priority. And I hope that you save this number, not just for that woman, but for the various people, mothers, fathers, that have acted in the most irresponsible manner and are giving their kids alcohol. When we were much younger, back in the day, it was, you could excuse ignorance. In this social media age where everything is talked about, people are putting out awareness about certain issues. Ignorance is not an excuse. Back in the day, they would make jokes about sapele water and how, when you're younger, your parents will put like a cup of alcohol in your mouth. A number of people have had that experience.
Yeah.
Those experiences growing up. But never to the point where you even have the nerve to now film it, put it on social media and tell the world that you do this every night for your child to sleep. So in case you did not know, it is wrong and it is illegal. Please do not give your children alcohol.
I think that is, I like the fact that the police swung into action. These are the kind of things that we expect the authorities to do.
Very proactive.
This is what the authorities are meant to do, to bring sanity in every society. And people have somewhat abused social media, whether you like it or not. They feel like social media is where you come to show how you live your life and so on, which is fine. But when you abuse it in the sense that you now use your platform to kind of like send a misinformation or disinformation to people who are, because there are other mothers who are not intelligent, who are not educated, who would see that video.
Say, oh, okay, this is the right way. This is the right way to send my
That's it. But the risks are indeed plenty.
It's a serious health implication.
The baby is still developing its organs, so the child's organ is not as strong as yours. Therefore, the organs or the body will not be able to assimilate or take in alcohol just the way an adult's body will be. An adult's body will be able to, take it.
That's for her to be saying that she's giving this child alcohol every night.
She's damaging. She's slowly damaging that child's
there could be alcohol
organs.
poisoning too. So many things can happen.
Yeah.
Slowly. It's risky because, you might be deceived to see that the baby is looking healthy. What a beautiful child. But then again, the risk also there is that at certain point in time, that child would struggle with impaired breathing and so on and so forth. But then again, we're just going to leave this story, but let's sound a note of warning to every single person who's watching Breakfast Central this morning. Even as adults, taking in alcohol at a certain time and limitless one could affect and impair your thoughts and the way you act, which of course we know.
That's why they always add the caveat, drink responsibly.
Drink responsibly.
Even research recently, you will see that research will tell you that taking even minute portions of alcohol have been proven to be detrimental to the body. I've seen a number of research that has come out recently where they will tell you even just taking a little bit of alcohol is not very advisable for you. So if you're going to be making poor choices, don't do that to your children as well. And even videos of, I don't know if you've seen the videos of children smoking.
No, we've seen that many times. I think we've had that also
But
discussed.
I want to know what she was thinking
on breakfast
by recording that, or she didn't know what she was doing was wrong.
No.
Or did she think members of the public would encourage her and say she's a great mother, she's intelligent, she's brilliant? Because I'm trying to wrap my head around it.
Can I say something? It's either of two things. One, it could be clout.
That's it.
It could be that she just wanted clicks. People do the darndest things for views. People will do the most incredibly ridiculous things, and then when you ask them, they'll say it was just for views. It could be clickbait. That's one. Two, it might be that she genuinely, wasn't aware. Even though ignorance of the law is not an excuse.
But is the problem social media or the people using it? Because, a bread knife could be used to cut bread. It could also be used as a weapon.
Yeah.
You've gotten it. That's it. And I agree with you. Bottom line. The thing is...
Human beings need to do better.
The thing is, we just need to be careful. And before we put anything on social media, let's be very careful. Let's see reactions on this very quickly. and see what people are indeed saying. It's obvious that it's not alcohol. Even an adult can taste that alcohol brand and not spoil face, let alone children. It will burn the mouth and the child will cry fire. Notwithstanding, this is bad parenting. You don't use your child for clout. You don't use children for clickbait and engagement. And then there are responses there, especially that most and so on and so forth. Anyway,
I like the second response. No, please go back to that.
So
please go back to the previous one. The previous response, it says, Silas Anthony says, do you know how long the baby has been tasting that? So the fact that the baby did not squeeze her face when they gave her alcohol.
Thank you.
It might be that her system is used to it because, like the mom said, she gives her every night to make her sleep. So do you know how long she has been taking it?
Anyway, Oga Price says, even if you arrest her, it will be a long legal battle because you will have to prove that she gave that child alcohol and not water. All the same, using your baby for clout chasing is the worst parenting. If you were in America, that baby will be taken away from you immediately.
Exactly.
Anyway, people need to start going to jail for being nuisance online. I don't think it's real alcohol because it should be bitter and also hot. Do the toddler can't just take it nicely like that?
So I think you're trying to write, so the toddler
can't just take it nicely like that, but the gesture alone deserves 10 years jail term.
So when we get to a system, or when Nigeria gets to the point where we have systems that prioritize the welfare of children, where we have social services that are reliable, a number of parents will then sit up knowing that if you act anyhow, they can collect the child from you, and by the time you take your child to social service, you would then sit up.
And it's already happening. Wait for the Nigerian police to get hold of her, and then we'll see what happens.
We'll see what will happen. In the Western climes, for example, you wouldn't typically see videos like that. People are very careful. Even Nigerians that live in the diaspora, they're very careful about disciplining their children because they don't want their children there. You are more important than your child. Your child is more important than you. So if you misbehave, they will take the child away from you. When we get to that point in Nigeria where children can be taken from their parents, put in
the problem is where do you want to keep them?
So that's why I'm saying we're not there yet. When we get to the point, and I hope that we get to the point where we have a great foster care system, social services, and I say that it's important because there are children who genuinely need that, who are in abusive families.
State-run orphanages, and there are private orphanages too, so maybe social services can collaborate with them until they build their own facilities. But they have juvenile homes, juvenile correctional centers for juveniles that offend, but this is impunity. This has been taking that responsibility away from parents. So I think an orphanage will be more suitable in this context.
Right. Anyway,
because the parents are already behaving like they're not parents. So
you
can just. I guess it's better for them to take the child away from irresponsible parents.
Anyway, while some politicians are busy fighting each other and bickering, like Iya Bose and Mama Ojo in the Market Square, Delta State has said they will not bicker on a particular case because it is not political. It has become the ways, not means though this time, but the ways that the state would like to be, to operate rather. So Delta State Police, given the go-ahead, has started the crackdown on indecent dress. Olive, what are you wearing? Indecent dressing, yeah. Oh, this is beautiful.
As a Delta.
So why am I the one that you are looking at? Why did you not look at Gwenga?
You're a woman.
Come on,
can't a man have indecent? No. Why can't a man be indecent?
But you're a Delta.
So why?
It's closer to home.
That's the only excuse I can permit because I'm Delta. Other than that.
And then you're a good and shining example for young
Take a look at this video
all around the world.
So we see why we are here. You are shining light.
It's shining light. It's shining
Take a look
example.
at this video, viewers. This conversation has been ongoing. Take a look.
Shame locked me for inside portable.
Wait, so shorts are classified as indecent dressing?
So that's the problem.
Gym wear.
What? Okay, Joe, let me hear from you first before I say what I want to say.
Well, that video that you see there is an alleged video that the police have started arresting though there are rumors that it may not have been as a result of indecent dressing.
True.
But there are also rumors going around Delta State as we speak now that some officers have decided to take it hook, line, and sinker headlong to start the crackdown, looking for people who are dressed indecently.
They have deleted that tweet. I was looking for that tweet where they shared Delta State violence against Delta State Police Command, some laws, where they showed that girl in crop top and shorts. They've now gone ahead to delete it on Twitter. Why? On
anyway,
X.
the bottom line, this is where we are going to. Like I said, that video was an alleged video that the lady was dressed indecently and was arrested and was being thrown into the police vehicle. Like I also said, there are rumors too from Delta State. We do hope that some of our Deltan friends can call us during the time when we open the phone lines, that the police have started the crackdown. However, this is risky. And we had said it here. I think Jasiri had a full show on this. And we also mentioned here that how do you indicate who is indecently dressed?
What's the standard?
What's the standard? Do you have a billboard? Do you have a poster? And what does the society say about people being indecently dressed?
And what happens to the male folks that sag, the ones that pee in the middle of the road?
They are part of it.
Singlets?
They are part of it.
Did they tell you that?
Topless. Indecent dress. They said, in the conversation, and I hope we can find that conversation online as well, they said, as long as you are indecently dressed.
So the question is, what is indecent
Whose
dressing?
standard is?
Do you know that right now, as properly covered as I am, wearing trousers, let me stand here, I'm wearing trousers. To some people, this is indecent dressing. The fact that I'm wearing trousers, it's for men.
So
to
those in charge of enforcement could interpret it.
They could interpret that as indecent dressing.
And then they would arrest you.
All I need to do is probably take away this jacket. I wear a sleeveless shirt as part of my three-piece suit. I take away this jacket and someone says, why is your arm showing? It's indecent dressing.
Problem.
So what is indecent dressing? I think that there are other pressing issues that Delta State
You can appeal to people to regulate their dressing and be decent in certain places where they go to. That, on national orientation. But how do you enforce freedoms? This is not a Gestapo state.
Thank you.
We are not in Iran or Iraq.
Or Saudi Arabia. So why trample on people's freedoms?
Well,
because of all the things that are happening, kidnapping, cultism,
I was going to mention all of that,
and then you think it's the problem with the state is indecent dressing.
Do Nigerian leaders and those in power, do they have a certain type of amnesia? Do we have a certain type of
I believe
understanding?
Sometimes
because sometimes it baffles even me. I was saying it this morning while on my way to work, while driving. I said, sometimes I pause and ask myself, am I okay? I touch my body and say, am I okay? Having heard some of these stories and reading through and researching and interviewing the people or those who are directly or indirectly involved, I ask myself, is everything okay with me? Because how would Delta, a state that has just gone through a political change, and yet we even still hear, hopefully our guests will join us pretty soon, maybe not today or tomorrow, we even still hear that even inside Delta, there's a divide amongst the APC, which in one way or the other, people are afraid it will affect governance. That's one. Two, there's so many issues people in Delta are facing. Remember the issue of the bad roads not being fixed, areas that don't have power for a long time, and so on and so forth. But then again, it now seems like, we know these things are, it's like somebody just wakes up and said, I know, I can feel your pain, but I don't like what you're wearing. Everybody attack anybody that is wearing this kind of clothes. Is that the most important thing?
Exactly. I mean, I have a different take. I just feel some of these politicians, maybe while they're going through social media and seeing skits, they believe that, Nigerians are laughing too much. Let's just come up with something that will make them sad or miserable for a while. Because how do you even imagine this is priority for a state?
Or is it a distracting mechanism?
Maybe, probably.
So that we can focus, they're talking too much on politics. Okay, you know what?
Let's
distract them so that they won't protest or cause any problem. Distract them.
I think, like I said,
and people too should, you dress the way you want to be addressed.
That's another thing.
You shouldn't take it, we live in a very conservative society. If you're going to a party, there are certain things you wear in certain places. If you're going to a mall, it's a public place. their children, people take their children to cinemas, to play centers. You don't want to see someone that is half naked. And we see that all the time. We're not saying, don't let it get to a stage where they have to police your dressing.
I'm clapping for you, Binga. Thank you. Go on.
Well, my answer to this, as someone who is a conservative dresser, I don't think I'm somebody who, I mean, I think I believe that to the best of my ability. So far, tomorrow it may change. As I am now, I am a conservative
As me as I am.
As me as I am. I'm a conservative dresser. However, I think that we're adults. We're in a democratic society. Part of freedom of expression is the freedom to express yourself the way that you deem fit. Do I see certain people's outfits and cringe a little? Yes, I do. Will I walk up to them and tell them to dress properly? No, because I'm not stupid. I will not do that. They're well within their rights to express themselves as they deem fit, right? That is one. Two, what is indecent dressing? Again, the idea of indecent dressing is subject to multiple interpretations, can then lead to abuse of processes, abuse of power, because people would determine, if each individual will determine what indecent dressing is. First, as a nation, do we have like any existing laws criminalizing dressing? No. So there's so many angles to this. Again, it shows a lack of priority. Our lawmakers need to go back to the drawing board and you know, decide what is priority to them. Delta State has a lot of issues. We talked about that before. Just yesterday, we were talking about cultism and how these leaders said they want to start laying curses on people who are committing criminal activities. The police should go and face the cultists. The police should go and face those who are kidnapping. That should be their priority. Coming to prey on people who are indecently dressed is an evidence of, in some measure, weakness. Because you're going for the lowest hanging fruit. You're going for people who are not.
It's unfairly targeting women. It's skewed.
That was the next thing I was going to say. It's unfairly skewed towards women. Because historically, when, of course, it will lead to abuse. Historically, whenever they talk about indecent dressing, they always make it about women. It's almost like men can never dress indecently. So I'm completely opposed to this law and to the way in which it is implemented. I think that they need to go back home and do their work. Yes, last week, Jasiri had a member of a lawmaker from Delta State coming to talk about this, and I was appalled watching that interview. Very, very appalled.
Male or female?
Female.
You know, she said, you need to let them know that this is in Delta State, and we are well dressed, we are well behaved. You know, she said tomorrow now you will say that they raped you. So those are the kind of conversations. So you are now making, in a society where we are already struggling with rape culture and victim blaming. You're making an excuse. A woman gets raped, they are asking you, what did you wear? Why did you go there? Why were you there at that time? And we are using our platforms to advocate against these things that further rape culture. We are now coming out to say, they say they will rape you. A 1-year-old child that has been sexually abused, what was the person wearing? What did the child wear? His napkin. The napkin is very sexual. We are really
these are reasons why we need to understand that there's a mental borderline. It's either you are mentally impaired completely for you to carry out such acts, or you need help. But then again, we understand that there's a need for a culture to be passed in terms of the culture of, oh, we are Deltans, we dress well. We agree.
That's something you do with your national orientation, your state orientation agency.
Yes,
exactly. That is what you do through your jingles, you know, through commercials, through going to schools and imbibing that culture.
Maybe we should do a sample. Maybe we should do a sample
to make people to dress how you think they should be dressing.
If it is pidgin English, you can have an advert that says, "My Delta people, I beg make una dey dress well. Una know say our culture now. You break it down. Delta. Our women, una fine, una beautiful. Now make una go need to cover body. Easy, just pass that message consistently. Fantastic. Push the information in primary schools, secondary schools, universities. Now when you see people dressing decently, well, it's one thing in our culture where the mothers will call them and say, come, my dear, how are you? I don't like the way you are dressed. That's fine if you want to do that. But putting the police to handcuff people, I
didn't know.
That's where the
it's not even funny. It's not funny.
But then again, the people of Delta, I mean, you have to say, you have to make the decision. You also have to talk to those local government
I am completely against it. I stand against
let them
it.
Know that,
and I think that is not just disrespectful. I think that it is very skewed towards a certain gender. It's very unfair, and I think that is depriving people of their right to being treated like human beings. If that video is proven to be true, that those girls were arrested because of how they were dressing, look at the way they were even shoving them into that truck. That's
because she wore
shorts. And there's nothing indecent about wearing shorts and a big shirt.
You've said it all. As a friend of a Delta, you've said it all. So I think we should move from Delta State to the cold state, 042. Enugu, positive news.
It's something that we should be doing in Delta State. This news
to wrap up wake-up conversations this morning.
And we've decided that we'll take it upon ourselves. So all our viewers, though some people criticized us and said that sometimes we highlight some of the, and that's a lie. We also highlight the good stories. When the president did his speech, we highlighted that he spoke well at a certain point. So we highlight good stories, and this is one of them. Benga, back to you.
Yes, 042, as it's known, Coal City. It was in celebratory mood yesterday. The Minister of Aviation and Aerospace, Mr. Festus Keyamo, was there, and the governor. Was a lot of pomp and pageantry as the state launched its own state-owned airline, Enugu Airlines. We've seen Ibom Air in operation for quite some time, and the feelers that we've gotten from so many people that have used it has been very positive, and they're timely and all of that. So this is the type of healthy competition we like to see, but there's a but here. Can you guys see the font of the Enugu Air? What does it remind you of?
Nigeria.
I was about to say, I hope that they will not have this airline.
Lie. It will not happen.
But it is a great thing. It is a great thing.
Well done, Enugu. How many years has the governor been in power?
This is first time.
So how many years?
2 years.
2 years. I don't know if you know where I'm going. Hold on. Right. Let me do the calculation for you. Just I don't have a drawing body and marker. The governor has been in power for 2 years. In 2 years, he has been deliberate in ensuring that these are the things I'm going to bring to the state. One of it is the airline, just as we've seen. Whether you like it or not, air travel helps to improve the economy of a state because it helps to improve transportation, and you save time, manpower, and a whole lot. In terms of business, in terms of whatever, you name it, that's what air travel does. Aside that, there's going to be a lot of bilateral partnerships here and there. It's not just for the people of the state. It can also go outside of the state to other countries, and hopefully we will get to that level. But where am I going to? In 2 years. Does Lagos have its own airline? Okay,
we will get there.
It has Murtala Airport. Where
no, it's not for Lagos State.
No, it houses all the, Lagos is commercial, so it houses all the airlines.
Yes.
It doesn't need to have its own name.
But if you look at the reason behind this.
Street lights first.
Let's start with street lights and
dealing with airline level.
The potholes.
The things that are on ground.
Let's before we go to things in the air. You are a very wise man. Tortoise is learning from you. But if you look at the reason that Peter Mbah gave for why it was important to launch this airline, he was talking about it being an avenue to give the young people in the state an opportunity to envision careers in aviation and the tourism sector. And he talked about the goal being that in the next few years, they're looking at attracting 3 million people annually to Enugu State. He also talked about making life easier for Nigerians in the diaspora, saying that they deserve a road to home, or a route to home. You know that every year, the Igbo people, Southeasterners, it's a thing. It's unfortunate that because of the insecurity challenges.
What's the name of that?
December. So it's almost like, without a shadow of fact, every family's pride was to have a family home, where at the end of the year, everybody will come with their family members. They all spend time together as one big family. But unfortunately, because of insecurity challenges, a number of people have not been able to go home as usual. And during the festive season, the roads are jam-packed. People who don't want to go via the roads because they are afraid of the possibility of being kidnapped have to go by air. And then what we then see is, for you to get to Enugu, it's a longer route. You're not going through the whole, you can't see like a Lagos to Enugu route. However, if you'd like to find out what this aircraft will be flying, they started with 3, and they said they are hoping to launch into international flying along the airline. Oh yes, they said they are starting with 3 aircrafts, efficient, elegant birds made for their terrain, and their routes begin with a powerful golden triangle. Enugu to Abuja to Lagos.
Simple.
From there, we stretch our wings to Port Harcourt, Owerri, Benin, Kano, and across various other cities. But we're not stopping there. In the next phase, we fly beyond Nigeria into other African countries, China, Europe, UK, US, and other global business hubs. Enugu is home to one of Nigeria's largest clusters of tertiary institutions, and that their aviation strategy is key to economic growth, supporting tourism and hospitality, and attracting over 3 million visitors into Enugu gradually. So this,
and you know what competition does?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Benga. Let me shake your hand. You have done well. Well,
these politicians sound
Joe is an expert. I won't be surprised if he throws in his hat. But the thing about the private sector is he won't be able to do an adilabu by being an anchor and politician at the same time. You have to, you can't serve Mammon and serve God at the same time. You have to choose one.
And you cannot do like someone that will leave one place to go and run, and then if you don't work, you will not come back. Once you leave, we replace you.
It's true.
So you have to choose it.
So be careful.
May I respond to you in the words of a compatriot, otherwise known as a former governor and a current minister of the FCTA.
Are you planning to say Inyeneba, Inyeneba?
Inyeneba. You can. I tell you, you can be PDP and still support APC.
I was not around.
I'm just sharing with you that, but that is
it's public information. I mean.
Yes, public information. That has been the conversation to which I think we're going to have, where members of the ADC have said, listen, we're going to be in our political parties, and we're also going to support the ADC. That's a conversation we're going to have. But let's not...
So maybe along the line now, I can be presenting Breakfast Central in the morning, then I'll go to another station and do the afternoon bells.
My dear, that one you have to sort it out with Kayode Akintemi. Mr. Kayode Akintemi. That one is between both of you.
And it's currently watching.
I wasn't there, you know.
And it's just a question.
Benga, when you hear?
I don't plan to do that too.
I'm a witness.
Anyway, let us share what the headlines this morning are on Breakfast Central. FCTA worker detained over alleged leaked documents. Nielsen Wiki has been thrown into the mix of the conversation, and we'll be getting more details shortly. We'll also be analyzing forced brutality cases in Nigeria, looking at certain specific instances. Senator Natasha plans to return to the Senate. She plans to resume Senate duty today after the court ruling. Stakeholders hold national conference to strengthen fiscal governance and transparency. We'll review the newspaper front pages as usual. Join us for all these and more. We begin our headlines this morning by confronting a disturbing reality, one that has haunted our streets, silenced our young people, and stained our democracy. From the Lekki toll gate in 2020 to the deadly crackdowns in the southeast in 2025, the brutality of Nigeria's security forces has not only persisted, but appears to have escalated. According to SBM intelligence, a total of 598 cases of hospitality incidents were recorded, with a total number of 824 fatalities in Nigeria between 2020 and 2025, many of which occurred at the hands of state and non-state actors. But the line between the two is increasingly blurred, and today we ask, who protects the people when the protectors become predators? Joining us for today's discussion to give us a breakdown of this report and its findings is security analyst with SBM Intelligence, Kehinde Giwa. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, Olive. Thank you for having me.
Kehinde, we're seeing these numbers. We're seeing here a total of 598 cases of forced brutality recorded, with a total number of 824 fatalities in Nigeria between 2020 and 2025. Can you walk us through how we came about these numbers?
Yeah, thank you for having me once again, Olive, and good morning, everyone in the studio. It is imperative to note that forced brutality took, a major spike even after the 2020 NSAS that, shook the nation and triggered, nationwide reactions and even continental reactions. And you expect that all of the judicial panel of inquiry set across all states, would help to, reform the system, reform police brutality, or completely terminate police brutality. But all of that has not happened. We've had, just like you said, we've had close to 900 fatalities in the last 5 years, spread across all states in Nigeria. So it is not, restricted to a certain state, and it is not also restricted to a certain perpetrator, so to speak, like the Nigerian police. It is cut across, all security agents. And it is imperative to put, there's a slight difference between extrajudicial killings and police brutality or force brutality. Force brutality happens when, security agents, violently, extort, brutalize, beat, harass, inflict, damages on unarmed and defenseless citizens. Why extrajudicial killings occur when security agents kill unarmed and defenseless civilians without going through the legal process. So you cannot have an extrajudicial killing without having a forced brutality, but not all forced brutality, will lead to an extrajudicial killing. So I'll just quickly run through the numbers and, what is responsible for these numbers across all of the states in Nigeria. It is imperative to state that Lagos is the epicenter for frequency in terms of forced brutality in Nigeria, and it is not restricted to the Nigerian police. Of course, the Nigerian police is chief amongst, all of the perpetrators, like, the LASMA, the NDLEA, the Nigerian Army, the KAI, King Against Indiscipline. We have vigilantes in the northeast and the northwest. So Lagos is chief, with a very high incident to a high fatality ratio. Lagos has had over 300 incidents of forced brutality in the last 5 years. They've also had over 300 fatalities, of forced brutality in the last 5 years. So you know that every time there is an incident, there is definitely going to be a fatality. That indicates that there is high lethality and there's high brutality in Lagos. Of course, the dense population of Lagos, the commercial activities in Lagos has a lot of roadblocks, Lagos has a lot of protests, Lagos has a lot of road patrols. This indicates that there will be frequent and consistent interactions between civilians and security agents. Like I said, it is not restricted to the police, even though the police have had more incidents and fatalities in the last 5 years. Of course, we go to Abuja. Abuja has more incidents, but less fatality, because Abuja is the seat of government. Security agents in Abuja are always very cautious, in inflicting damage, in inflicting brutality upon civilians, because a lot of protests happen in Abuja. The IMM protests happen in Abuja. The Senator Natasha case, also happened in Abuja. And it is also pertinent to mention Delta. Before I came upon the show, you guys were discussing about Delta and how they are trying to crack down in indecent dressing. Delta is the most fatal state in Nigeria in terms of forced brutality, in the last 5 years. They've had over 80 fatalities, even though the incident has been few, reflecting and indicating that there is more brutality and lethality in Delta.
So are you saying that Delta,
the resources in Delta,
are you saying that Delta has had more incidences than Lagos and Abuja?
No, I am saying Delta has had fewer incidents, but more deaths.
Oh, wow.
So every time there is an incident, there is twice or more deaths as recorded in Lagos and, FCT. Despite the fact that Delta has a lower population, this means that cult gangs, this means that all of the armed robbery, all of the, contesting for oil-rich resources in Delta is what prompts these brutalities, because almost every area like Ugeli, like Warri, they are considered as hostile areas by security agents. So security agents, are always roving this area, looking for these cult gangs, looking for these guys, looking for these, oil merchants, who perform illegal bumping and all of that. And so this is the reason why they've had more fatalities than any other state in Nigeria in the last 5 years. They don't really have much incident. They've had like 40 incidents, but they have 83 fatalities in the last 5 years. So you should understand that the government, the security forces, the state authorities in Delta need to channel their supposed crackdowns in the right direction, not on indecent dressing, as we've seen. It is also pertinent to mention that Rivers is also the fourth most affected state in Nigeria. Over 30 incidents and over 30 fatalities. This is also largely due to cult gangs. Security agents are always trying to crack down on cult gangs, trying to crack down on illegal oil bunkering, and in this process they tend to inflict unarmed and innocent citizens. And of course, in Imo State, security agents are always trying to crack down on separatist agitations, like IPOP agitations, like ESN agitations, and in this process, they tend to inflict unarmed and defenseless citizens. I will go forward a bit in the next 1 minute to tell you that the most culpable security agent is the Nigerian police, and in the last 5 years, they've had over 300 incidents and over 300 fatalities. And of course, you know that the police are everywhere. They are the first line of defense for civilians. They are in marketplaces, they are in churches, they are in schools, they are on the roads, you know, and police have more incidents and fatalities in high-dense population states like Lagos, the FCT, and like in Ibadan that we saw last week, where, you know, a police just, for no reason, probably inability to de-escalate, you know, an incident, shot, you know, an unarmed civilian. So the police are major culpables in this incident and fatalities. After the police, we have the Nigerian Army. Yes, the Nigerian Army, their incidents and their fatalities, they have more incidents but less fatalities compared to the police. And they, you know, are mostly perpetrating this brutality in the northeast and in the northwest because they are mostly deployed to conflict, you know, to conflict zones like Borno, like Kaduna, like Benue, like Plateau, like Adamawa, and like Bauchi. After the Nigerian Army, we have the vigilantes. They've also been, you know, perpetrating forced brutality in the northeast, the northwest, and the north central. The vigilantes are the second line of defense, such that when the police fail or when police presence is not adequate, you know, you can always deploy vigilantes to, you know, remote areas, so to speak. But these vigilantes, they tend to lack improper training. They tend to lack, you know, adequate training, and they can take laws into their hands. Number 4 are the Nigerian customs. You know, they are found majorly in border areas or border states like Jibia local government in Katsina, like, you know, Ogun State, like Lagos State. And what do these guys do? They shoot at smuggling, you know, vehicles that are supposedly smuggling, contraband arms and all of that. And in this process, they can shoot unarmed and, you know, innocent citizens. They even go to warehouses to raid, you know, innocent people. So the Nigerian Customs is number 4. And last on the list is state task force, like LASMA, like the Kick Against Indiscipline. They tend to take law into their hands. They tend to even act like police. These guys are just there to, you know, instill discipline, to ensure that there is law and order, you know, in our communities and in our local governments, but they tend to take it too far. And so these 5 actors, the Nigerian police, the Nigerian army, the vigilantes, the state task force, and, you know, the Nigerian customs are the 5 major perpetrators of forced brutality in Nigeria. Like I said, there is a major difference between forced brutality and extrajudicial killing. You can always have forced brutality. It may not necessarily lead to the killing of the civilian, but you cannot have an extrajudicial killing without having, you know, a forced brutality.
Now, Kende, thanks for your insightful analysis so far and breaking it down across the Federation. Now, this does highlight one problem. There's a serious disconnect between the police services and the civilian population. Is there a downward trend since the last major protest, the End SARS and End Bad Governance, or we're seeing an uptick in this incident? And what does it tell us about the relationship between the police and the civilians, ordinary Nigerians?
Okay, thank you, Benga. Yes, the End SARS protest in 2020, you know, seemed like, you know, it was going to bring an end to police brutality, because we saw a lot of, you know, there were cases in 2020, there were cases in 2021, but in 2022 and in 2023, the cases, the forced brutality incidents, if you look at the year-on-year analytical breakdown, in 2023 and in 2024, the cases really simmered a bit, possibly due to government crackdowns, government ensuring that, you know, all of these incidents do not happen, trying to hold police officers accountable, trying to hold the Nigerian army accountable, trying to even punish, you know, some of the culpable security agents. But in 2024 and 2025, we've had a resurgence. We've had, you know, the numbers are spiking. There is virtually no state in Nigeria where there is hardly no an accidental airstrike from the Nigerian Air Force. I think just yesterday or the day before yesterday, a last man officer, you know, was chasing a driver, and that driver, you know, experienced a fatal accident. So in one way or the other, security agents are, you know, they are arming civilians in one way or the other. But I should also state that when this forced brutality happens, when these extrajudicial killings happens, it erodes trust between civilians and security agents, and it will breed more violence. Civilians would resort to vigilantism. Civilians will resort to protecting themselves. There will be reprisal attacks from civilians, and of course, that trust is completely broken. You cannot call on a security agent to protect you because you know that it's definitely going to extort you, before protecting you, as we've seen in several cases.
Well, I'd like us to go back to the East. In the report there, I don't know if I can get the graphics up on the screen at the moment. I would see Enugu, also number of incidents and fatalities by state. Enugu has, if I'm right, that's 24, 23, 24. And then if you look somewhere at the statistics as well to the right, you also have actors and their fatalities. It seems like the Nigerian army, like you did mention, is also big on the number, 341, 149. And the Nigerian police force, of course, like you said, the biggest culprit here, 317 to 303. While we're talking about the increase in lawless attacks and forced brutality in Nigeria, did you also look at states that have possibly before had an increase in these attacks, but then again, all of a sudden have calmed down in terms of the number of attacks as well?
Yes. States like some states in the southeast, like Ebonyi, where it was highly volatile between 2021 and 2023. But like I said, previously, it simmered down possibly due to the reduction in separatist agitations, particularly in the southeast. Every time there is a separatist or a secessionist agitation, you would always see security agents trying to, bring it down, trying to crack down on, all of these agitations. But we've seen a reduction in IPOB, attacks, so to speak, in Ebonyi and in Enugu particularly, and that is responsible for the low number of incidents that that is recorded in Enugu and Ebonyi. And for the Nigerian army, like I said, I should quickly come back to that. They have more incidents than the Nigerian police in the last 5 years, even though the difference between them is small. But the Nigerian army has had more incidents because every time they try to, secure an area, or they try to secure maybe an area under curfew, particularly in the northeast or in the northwest, civilians in this area or civilians, particularly in the north, can be extremely hostile to the security agents, and this hostility will definitely lead to the Nigerian army inflicting brutality on them. But the Nigerian army has not had as much fatalities as the Nigerian police.
Okay, I mean, it's interesting here to hear that the Nigerian army hasn't had as much fatalities as the Nigerian police. Maybe not as surprising though. But you've shared these numbers, the ones that the numbers have increased, the states where the numbers have reduced. What do these numbers mean? How can we use these numbers to improve the security situation in our country so that we don't keep hearing about, for example, the states where you say there's an increase in forced brutality? How can these numbers help?
Well, one major reason we are having a spike, amongst other things, is the lack of, a systematized and a structural approach from leadership to tackle the menace of forced brutality. Like I said, every week there is an incident of forced brutality in Nigeria. Every week there is more than 5. If we are working with data, we are working with numbers, but the government has failed to hold anyone accountable. The government has failed to punish any of these. There are literally no consequences for these attacks. The numbers are there. This is a live show. The numbers are everywhere. The numbers are not a hidden resource. But the government is not doing anything to properly, train. Because when these numbers are there, they are indicative of the fact that forced brutality is happening. But what is the government doing to ensure that these numbers, simmer down like we had in 2023 and 2024? And the reason why the numbers simmer down in those 2 years was because of the protests. The protests were extremely high, possibly shaking the nation. So these numbers are indicative of one thing: government is not doing enough to train security agents, especially in de-escalating an incident. Security agents have this tendency to always use violence to terminate violence. They want to use force to terminate violence. How do you shoot a criminal in a dense population? For example, a criminal broke into a dense population like Ojudubega, or a major population like like Lagos, and you start shooting. You should know that other unarmed criminals will be caught in the mix. So the inability to de-escalate an incident is reflective of improper training for these guys. We should also mention that security agents are overstretched. They are overstretched because they are combating a mixture, multifaceted insecurity problems. They are combating banditry, they are combating terrorism, they are combating Fulani herdsmen attacks, they are combating cult clashes like we said last weekend, they are combating armed robbery, they are combating a lot of insecurity. Our security agents are overstretched. They don't have proper welfare, they don't have proper training, and if all of these things are not nipped in the bud by the government, these numbers you are seeing, they are just the beginning of more brutality, even as the days goes by.
Now, Kende, whose responsibility is it? Is it the Nigerian Police Service Commission? Is it the Inspector General of Police? Is it the federal government? Whose responsibility is it to look at this report and say, this is damning, we can't let this continue. We need to use this as, as a point where we begin to turn a new leaf, where things change for the better. Who can enforce, or who has a political will to make sure we see this changes, and when your report comes out next year, it won't be the same story over and over again?
Well, that's a very, very interesting question, because whether we like it or not, the bulk of security in this country falls on the president. The president is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. He's not just the president. He's not just a political leader or a political figure. He has the responsibility, the mandate of ensuring that security across all strata, at the community level, at the state level, at the local government level, he has the responsibility of ensuring that security is top drawer, that these numbers go down to the barest minimum. Every single head of security from the community level answers to a boss. The boss answers to another boss. Then the boss answers to the IGP, or the Chief of Defense Staff, so to speak. The IGP and the Chief of Defense Staff answers to the president. If these numbers are so alarming, there has not been a report in the last 5 years where 5 major head of security personnel has been sacked, despite all of these numbers, despite all of this force brutality. Now, we are not even talking about insecurity coming from armed groups. We are not talking about Boko Haram and Israel. We are talking about an internal problem here. If you say the president does not have an oversight of the entire country, we have Commissioner of Police, we have the IGP, we have the National Security Advisor. These guys have failed to hold anybody accountable, for force brutality in this Nigeria. So the president needs to start taking actions. He needs to start firing people. There need to be consequences for this action. There need to be consequences for this incident. If you say the Nigerian police has killed over 300 civilians in the last 5 years, and nobody has been sacked, not a single officer has been punished, that I know, I might be wrong, has been punished. A police officer shot somebody in Ibadan last week. And, we keep hearing about judicial panel of inquiries. We keep hearing about, reforms that lack poor implementation. So the president, this stops at the bulk of his table. Of course, the president does not know what is happening in Delta, for example. But there's a commissioner of police in Delta who should crack down on these incidents. And like people would always say, until the relative of a major politician or until the relative of a major security operative is killed, I guess we will not take these whole incidents, we will not take it serious.
Well, again, it's reflective of where our priorities lie. And if we consider the value of the Nigerian life, the importance to reform our forces, just earlier this morning, we were talking about Delta State, and the priorities they are placing on ensuring that they are regulating people's dressing as opposed to dealing with the issues of criminality and cultism that the state, has as a challenge. But Kende Giwa, thank you very much for sharing the details of this report by SPM Intelligence. They're incredibly helpful. And we hope that the right agencies will take this data and do the needful to ensure that next year we have better reports. Thank you very much for your time with us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kende.
Thank you so much, Olive. Thank you so much.
All right. It's been a very interesting conversation, and well done to the guys at SBM Intelligence. You can find more of this report on their social media pages and website. Very, very insightful, enough to actually help the security forces jump on it and ensure that they bring insecurity to a halt. But away from that, let's tell you that Nigeria's efforts to reform its public finance system have once again taken center stage as key stakeholders converge on Abuja to chart a new course for accountability and fiscal discipline in the management of public funds. At the core of the conversation are recurring issues of unaccounted expenditures, a weak enforcement of financial regulations, and non-compliance by ministries, departments, and agencies. But don't take my word for it. Our correspondent, Idong Joseph, tells us more in this report.
Nigeria stands at a crucial point in its pursuit of fiscal governance reforms. However, while some progress has been recorded in recent years, it still grapples with full audit gaps, persistent financial leakages, and poor adherence to protocols across MDAs at all levels of government. This is the focus at the National Conference on Public Accounts and Fiscal Governance.
As we gather here today, we are mindful of the complexities and challenges that faces Nigeria in its quest for sustainable development.
We have seen budgets passed without adequate oversight. We have witnessed funds released without measurable outcomes. And we have too often overlooked the voices of citizens in matters that directly affect their livelihoods. But today offers a new page.
A recent audit report from the Auditor General's Office reveals that over 300 billion naira remains unaccounted for across federal MTAs, with more than 60% of them routinely fail to comply with financial regulations. This has led to calls for stronger enforcement mechanisms against corruption and abuse of processes in public financial management.
We must strengthen the Office of the Auditor General with full independence and sufficient resources. We must establish a public finance innovation hub.
Through the implementation of the Federal Civil Service Strategy and Implementation Plan, we are strengthening accountability frameworks, promoting fiscal discipline, and repositioning our institutions to become more citizen-centered and service-driven.
President Bola Tinubu, represented by the Minister of State for Finance, in his address says that the administration has redirected funds saved from fuel subsidy removal into critical sectors of the economy.
Since its removal, we have redirected those funds into targeted interventions, expanding our social safety nets, improving public transportation, and financing critical infrastructure projects. Most importantly, we have strengthened our fiscal buffers, making Nigeria more resilient to external shocks.
The conference also served as a platform for knowledge sharing and renewed commitment to transparency. Lawmakers in attendance pledged to expedite the passage of key fiscal accountability bills currently before the National Assembly. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idong Joseph.
President Bola Tinubu is urging Nigerians to play an active role in demanding accountability from public officials in the management of public funds. Represented by the Minister of State for Finance, the President made the call at the National Conference on Public Accounts and Fiscal Governance in Abuja. He emphasized that good governance and prudent resource management should not be the sole responsibility of government agencies, but a shared duty of citizens, civil society, and the media. The conference also highlighted the need for strong, efficient institutions that can effectively hold public nationals and public officials accountable. Let's take a look at this video.
I must mention that fiscal governance cannot be effective without active citizen engagement. Nigerians must be empowered to ask questions, scrutinize public accounts, and demand accountability. I therefore urge the civil society, the media, and the general public to partner with government in this journey, not as spectators, but as co-owners of the national project. Fellow Nigerians, good governance is a shared responsibility. The role of Parliament in oversight, the judiciary in upholding the rule of law, and the media in public enlightenment, civil society in advocacy, and the citizens in participation are all essential to building a Nigeria that is physically strong and socially just.
You're watching Breakfast Central. It's the top of the first hour, just minutes past the top of the first hour. But let's bring you a recap of the stories we brought to you this morning. Analyzing forced brutality cases in Nigeria, we spoke to Kehinde Giwa of SBM Intelligence, and stakeholders unite for fiscal transparency, which has brought you that report. And public accountability management in Nigeria. Coming up later this morning on Breakfast Central, FCTA worker detained over alleged exposed document. Senator Natasha plans return to Senate today, and experts speak on alternative dispute resolution. You stay with us. Breakfast Central continues shortly.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. Well, justice delayed is often justice denied. And in Nigeria, that delay can stretch into years. While many citizens remain trapped in courtroom backlogs, legal experts are advocating for the broader use of alternative dispute resolution, simply known as ADR, to settle disputes, address grievances, and get justice. Our correspondent Joshua Maraye tells us more in this report.
Nigeria's courts are overwhelmed with civil, criminal, and commercial cases, often dragging on for years, leaving many without timely justice. But an alternative, less confrontational, more collaborative, and often faster is fast emerging. Alternative dispute resolution, or ADR, is gaining traction as a more efficient route to settling disputes outside traditional courtrooms.
ADR is the way to go. Retired Justice Dolapo Akinsanya, the first ADR judge, once said in the paper she presented in year 2002, and in part I quote, she said that sometimes cases will emanate from lower courts only to get to the Supreme Court and then be sent back to the court of first instance to be heard all over again. At the end of the day, the parties are exhausted, embittered, and impoverished.
At the heart of ADR is the principle of fairness, not only in the outcome, but in the process itself.
ADRO creates a win-win platform for all the parties. No loser, no winner. Everybody wins and everyone loses. Meaning that ADRO is one of the best mechanisms that is even introduced in the court system globally, not only in Nigeria.
With the rising demand of ADR techniques, these lawyers say partnering with institutions such as the Mediation Training Institute has become necessary to certify more professionals and close the growing access to justice gap.
If you note this and then note the punishment section within the rules of professional conduct, any lawyer who fails or neglects to let his or her client know about these ADR options has committed a professional misconduct.
Awareness, however, remains a major challenge. Many Nigerians still know little about ADR, partly because its outcomes rarely make headlines.
Why most outcomes of ADR processes are not in newspapers is because of the confidentiality and privacy expected of matters resolved using ADR.
As Nigeria continues to grapple with congested courts and delayed justice, ADR offers a quicker, more diplomatic path to resolution. It's not a replacement for the judiciary. However, it has been acclaimed by experts as a veritable alternative to extended court litigations and adjournment. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarayi.
Very interesting conversation that we're looking at. Nigeria's judicial system is indeed a conversation that we would look to have any day, any time, especially looking at the backlog of cases. If you recall recently, a case that came out and had stayed for so long saw two gentlemen who were arrested because of a generator issue. I don't know if you've been following that story as well. Okay, there's a story put out there by one who is now tagging himself as an activist. He had talked about the story, went online, put out a video using his mobile device, talking about cases that we've seen, kind of like it resembles the similar cases we've seen in the past where someone had stolen a generator. I mean, I also have an experience of that. Somebody had stolen a generator and then took it to the open market and then sold it. And the police eventually traced it to the buyer. And the buyer was innocent. He said, oh, no, I just saw it. And they said, oh, do you want to buy? And I said, how much? And I was able to bargain, and then I paid. They caught the buyer, traced the one who sold it, possibly didn't get the one who sold it, and said the buyer knew the one who sold it. And he said, I didn't know. And it was locked up for not 1 year, not 2 years, but years in prison without an opportunity to have a lawyer, to make a phone call. The families thought that he was gone and missing.
Right. I mean, it's really sad to hear of that.
Gross miscarriage.
There are tons of cases like that in court.
Yeah.
And the truth is, we will maybe get to that point, but we have a huge backlog, which is why, like you've seen in that report, people are being encouraged to explore arbitration, alternative dispute resolution, not just situations where we're sort of waiting until we get to court. It's why many times before you go into certain agreements, they will say to you that, you know what, inside the contract, they'll put that we would explore ADR first, and where that fails, we can then go to court. But let's move on from that to another conversation. The Federal High Court in Abuja has told the Nigerian Senate to recall suspended Kogi Central lawmaker, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. Delivering judgment in the suit challenging her suspension, the court found Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan in contempt and directed her to pay a 5 million naira fine. To bring us update about this, we have our correspondent, Sagir Ibrahim. Good morning, Sagir. Thank you for joining us this morning. How is it at the National Assembly, and what updates do you have for us regarding Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan? Sagir, can you please unmute your device? All right. There seems to be an audio issue there. We're hoping that we can have that fixed and get Sagir to join us and bring us up to speed with the case of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. Sagir, I don't believe that you have unmuted your device yet. If you may please unmute it so we can hear you clearly and get an update regarding this. There have, of course, been a flurry of reactions on social media, as users on social media have, in many situations, shared their thoughts. Those in support have lent their voices. Those against have also spoken against it. Yesterday in the papers, we did see where the lawmakers, the Senate had said they were waiting for a certified true copy of the judgment issued by the court, and that they were waiting on that to implement. Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, however, had said, regardless, based on the court judgment, she was going to appear at the Senate. She was going to resume her legislative functions today. So we're hoping that we can get clarity as to how this has turned out. She has gotten a lot of support from strong activists in the persons of Aisha Yusufu, Obi Ezekwesili. A number of people have lent their voices and stood behind her, especially her husband, who's been with her all through this journey. So it's been quite the time and quite the journey for Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. And you remember her last words in the Senate were, this injustice will not be sustained. So it will be interesting to hear from her and hear if she finds that this is some measure of justice for her, because she vowed and swore to fight this to the very end, and she has done so. And there are now a series of cases that have come up as a result of these cases of defamation. Criminal defamation, it would seem.
Well, and we're wondering if the Ministry of Justice and the Attorney General's office will drop those cases now that she's been recalled. And if she has fulfilled the conditions of the apologies, and if the Senate will let her back into their fold. And hopefully this will be the end of the very highly publicized. It even went international. She was on several international platforms talking about this incident, and it did have a negative image of Nigeria, and the Senate. So hopefully they sort things out. Of course, our correspondent Sergey Ibrahim is there to give us live updates as things proceed. But let's talk to the man in Abuja. He might have insights that we don't have here in Lagos. Sergey, you're welcome back. Please, can you talk us through what I know you don't have a crystal ball in front of you, but what do you expect to see today? We still seem to have audio connection.
The village people are refused to allow this conversation to happen.
Well, I don't know what the challenge is this morning, but Sergey, we'll try as much as possible to see if we can try to connect again with the audio. But like Benga and Oliver said, it's D-Day. It's D-Day. Most importantly, it is D-Day because the National Assembly just resumed plenary today after being on a long break. So it shows that when they are resuming today, they're resuming on this note. I wonder what that would look like, especially for some of its members who had blatantly agreed that the senator should be actually suspended.
And just to mention that her suspension, according to the court, for anyone who's not aware, Justice Binta Nyako has declared the suspension by the Senate unconstitutional, excessive, and in violation of her constituents' rights to representation. Because when this came up, these were the conversations that we had, that there were people who elected her. There were people who put their votes behind her. They wanted her to be their voice. So what happens when you suspend them and the legality and constitutionality or otherwise of this came to the fore? The question was, can the lawmakers suspend their colleagues?
And from the precedents we've seen, the Ovio Magege and the others, the court is always, so the court is consistent in its judgments. It's always ruled that it's unconstitutional. But I also wonder if there are back-channel conversations between Senator Natasha and the principal officers that have become sort of principalities against her to allow for a smooth return.
And I don't know what this
is. Or if any apologies have happened behind the scenes.
What's it going to look like? I mean, because the whole drama will start off with whether we like it or not, people are going to bring out their phones, their cameras, and
you're expecting a triumphant Jerusalem-like
into the National Assembly, her walking in. Now, bear in mind, where is she going to sit? Is she going to go back to her former seat, or is she going to go back to the one that was
that caused
the drama? You know, ordinarily would expect that she would sit anywhere. But then again, there's going to also be a case of, she's been humbled by her
I mean, you expect people to, there will be multiple interpretations.
Yes, multiple interpretations, she coming in, sitting down. I would also like to see if she'll be able to raise, in quotes, maybe a prayer or something, and
move emotion.
Yeah, of
course, I think that's all her.
You should consider publishing as, what do they call those type of magazines? Soft sale magazine. You have this editorial.
I'm just thinking. And when she's going to see honorable distinguished senator, and is he going to look at her and say, please go on?
I don't think there's anything that's going to be worried about that. I think all her rights as a senator have been returned because they were unlawfully taken.
Returned on paper, but enforcement.
However,
are security aids back? How is she going to?
They will do all of that. My worry is what precedent this has set in the future for people who feel like they want to speak up about certain issues. Are we potentially pushing for cases like this to be handled with the levity with which some would argue that this has been handled? We're going to try once again to connect with our National Assembly correspondent, Sergey Ibrahim, who will bring us up to speed with maybe the potential expectations for what will happen today at the National Assembly when Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan will make her triumphant entry back into the House. Sergey, thank you for joining us, and we hope that we can connect with you this time. What's the mood like? What are the expectations for Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan?
Hello, good morning, everyone. If you can hear me, I guess three times is a charm. And I hope that you can all hear me in the studio finally.
Yes, we can finally hear you. Victory at last.
Great. Okay, finally. I would say that we're waiting with bated breath, of course, to see what today is going to look like. It's been 3 months not having Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan in the Senate representing, her people, her constituents who elected her there. We all know how it started. If we don't, then perhaps a quick refresher. It all started in the Senate sometime in February when the Senate Chief Whip had raised a point of order, bringing the attention of the Senate President to the fact that Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan was not sitting at the rearranged sitting arrangement in the Senate at the time, and he had informed the Senate President, who had initially rearranged the sitting arrangement following the defection of a few senators, in the National Assembly from the opposition party to the ruling APC. That sitting arrangement had to be done. And according to the Senate rules, the Senate President has the prerogative to do that without the prior knowledge of lawmakers. That was the initial cause of this. She came into the chambers and noticed that her seat had been moved from where it usually was to another position. And she was furious that she wasn't informed that her sitting, our original sitting position had been moved. So she was offended and insisted that she would speak from the position that she was that very day, as we can see in the visuals. And then the Senate Chief Whip raised the point of order, stating that she could only contribute from the position assigned to her by the Senate President on any issues regarding matters in chamber. And this was what led to the argument, was what led to the visuals that we saw. And of course, the matter was referred to the Committee on Ethics Privileges, which also sat on it, delivered its judgment being 6 months of suspension, the withdrawal of all of her security detail, and initial inclusion of the withdrawal of salaries for the 6 months time being of both her aides, herself, and her aides. As at the time, Senator Okalu had appealed that the aides were not Senator Natasha, and the Senate should consider excluding them from the sanctions meted on her, including the 6 months suspension. This would then snowball into lawsuits and counter lawsuits, with an initial lawsuit from Senator Natasha, accusing the Senate President and his spokesman of demeaning her publicly, if I could use that. And this led to a response from the wife of the Senate President, who defended her husband, and also filed a counter lawsuit. And then the lawsuit would so many to count, but then the court ruled as it has done. We saw all of that happen, and then the matter moved from the National Assembly to the court. And while that was going on, of course, we saw developments in our constituency where a recall notice was purportedly sent to INEC, and the statement or the news about her constituents calling her back was in the media space. And then we had to, of course, go and clarify that for ourselves. I was, in her constituency. I was in Okehi, particularly in Okene, and I saw the love that she had received as at the time. So the drama moved from the Senate gradually into a constituency recall, and gradually into a culmination of lawsuits that I'm sure Joshua did a great job explaining yesterday. But then we're back to today. She has said that following the judgment of the court, she's going to be making an appearance today at the National Assembly. Remember, one of the suspension adds that she should not be seen anywhere close to the vicinity of the National Assembly. So what is going to happen is what we really look forward to seeing. And of course, we'll be bringing that directly to our viewers to see how the drama unfolds.
All right. One of the things that everyone is looking forward to see is the fact that will there be any pomp pageantry? Will there be Nigerians who have been supporters of the suspended senator returning back to the National Assembly? Don't forget, too, that we mentioned, there was a recess, and then they are coming back to start, talking and looking at issues that lay right in front of them. Do you have an incline if the senator will be fully involved, or do you think that there will be any form of pushback, if at all?
Well, I would start by answering this question by first saying that the Senate, through its spokesperson, Senator Yemi Ajamodu, had actually given conditions to, accept the senator back in chambers. So for me, I would say it's probably a step in the good direction. It probably gives the impression that the Senate also looks forward to having her back. Hence the reason why they've given that. Of course, whether she's going to adhere to publicly apologizing to the chair and apologizing to the Senate House, well, we have to wait and see how that goes on. But the Senate has given its position. To our arrival, I won't be able to say for certain whether it's going to be a pomp affair with a lot of supporters there. First of all, it's the National Assembly, so security within the vicinity is quite tight, and I'm sure that they would do the best to limit the number of people that will be coming there. In addition, there's another twist, because is she expected to come? If she comes, will she be held back, at the entrance and turned back because she's not supposed to be seen, around the vicinity of the National Assembly, let alone the Senate chambers? These are also issues we need to consider, and this is the reason why I say we'll just have to go and to see how this event unfolds. The Senate leadership has not mentioned anything to the likes of saying we would not want to see you in the chamber specifically.
Okay.
So let's see whether she would come, and let's see whether she would access the chambers.
Now finally, Sagir, I believe you've positioned your cameras already in the vantage points of the National Assembly complex to capture every single step of this unfolding drama. But my question to you, and a lot of Nigerians will be wondering, is why is she apologizing? Why does she have to apologize? This is someone that said, she was wronged. So where is this apology conversation coming from?
Well, good question, Benga. The Senate's position remains, and this, I am by no means a spokesperson of the National Assembly, but they seem to remain adamant on their position that she actually erred. And this might also be because the Senate is constitutionally empowered to check itself and, sanction erring members of the chamber as per the Senate rule book provides. So it does not need, according to the book, to be regulated by, for example, the court to meet punishment on members of the Senate as per the consideration of both the Senate rule book and also the rule book of the House of Representatives. And this is probably the reason why it has remained adamant that she erred. She flouted Senate rules. Whether she erred her grievances and whether these grievances are legitimate or justified, she still erred and she broke Senate protocols. So this remains their position as far as we've been reporting the issue has been. And, well, it really makes it a tricky question of whether it becomes right for her to apologize to the Senate or whether she should, for the sake of her constituents who sent her there to represent them and who have been denied representation for the last month that she's been away. Some consideration as well, so as they continue to get the dividends of democracy. So it's really a tricky spot.
All right. Thank you so much, Sergey Ibrahim. We look forward to join you in our subsequent programming, and we'll get to see what it's like. If it's going to be palm pageantry, it's also going to be a scene to behold, especially for the true supporters of the senator, while what this means for democracy would be on the front burner. Thanks for your time. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. Let's move on to our next story. Our next conversation is one that is raising very serious questions about transparency, most importantly, when it comes to whistleblowing protection in Nigeria and due process, especially in the civil service. A leaked internal memo, allegedly from the Federal Capital Territory Administration, FCTA, has revealed that a staff member of the Department of Land Administration of the Federal Capital Territory Administration, FCTA, known as Mairiga Hassan Shahru, was reportedly said to be queried, subsequently arrested, and also detained for allegedly leaking some classified documents, just like what you can see on the screen.
Now, this document, which surfaced online last week, outlines disciplinary actions against the worker for allegedly leaking sensitive information, with sources said he allegedly leaked a certificate of occupancy showing land allocated to two sons of the FCT Minister, Nyesom Wike. But what has caught public attention is the manner of the arrest and the silence from key authorities.
Although the FCT Police Commissioner, Adewale Ajao, allegedly confirmed the arrest of Sharu and indicated that the FCTA staff will soon be charged to court. So today, we're asking, was this a justified enforcement of civil service rules or dangerous overreach that threatens whistleblower protections in the country. Join us this morning for this discussion is human rights lawyer and activist Deji Adeoju. A warm welcome to you, Deji, and thanks for joining us this morning on Breakfast Central, Mr. Adeoju. Straight to it, can you give us, I know you've been following this case closely, can you give us an update of the situation with Mr. Sharu and what you know so far?
It's so unfortunate that we live in a country where there are no consequences for bad behavior. Ours is a nation where people who do the wrong thing get the accolade, and people who do the right thing are vilified, intimidated, balkanized, and made to face all forms of repression and oppression by the system. Assuming without conceding that the FCTA official actually leaked the memo, should he not be given a national award for exposing this grand corruption by Wike? The evidence that is so glaring to the blind and to the deaf that this man is abusing his office to enrich himself and his family members in the FCT, a situation where he has been alleged with concrete evidence, documentary evidence of C of O's, of allocations to his two sons, or close to almost 4,000 hectares, I think about 3,740 hectares of land shared between his two sons, which is valued according to People's Gazette at almost $6-something billion. And it is further alleged that he used taxpayers' money to develop facilities in the areas where he allocated his sons so that the land so allocated can be lucrative. This is abuse of office, simplicity. There's no other name you can give it. So if someone decides to whistleblow, which is even not true in the instant case, the man in question said, I don't even know what they are talking about. I don't even, that they've checked my phone. There is nothing of such. Because lawyers from our firm, unfortunately, I was away when this thing happened. So my brother, Omoyele was the one that took the lead. But lawyers from our firm were actively involved in this matter. They met with him, Mr. Sharu. The man said, I have never in my life, I don't even know what they are talking about. They have searched my phone. They have checked everything. There's nothing of such that is linked to me or traceable to me. I'm not even aware. And the man does not even appear to be technological savvy. He's just a civil servant minding his business. But the reason why they picked him is because he's a northerner. He's Hausa. Because what they have done there is that they have obiapolized, and rivalized the key agencies of administration in the FCT. He has put almost all Rivers people and some people from the southeast that he trusts, that he has been working with over the years. So he has made them to be the one doing the thing. So it is strange if something is being leaked and they see a northerner or somebody that they are not used to, that person will be the suspect. So that's what happened, unfortunately, to the victim in this matter, where immediately, because they panicked when the expose was done, the story by People's Gazette was done, and they started looking, who could have possibly leaked it? So they started suspecting almost everybody, and they are still suspecting almost everybody. Since the thing has started, he has not been allocating and signing things that he was signing for himself. In fact, you can go and verify, we have checked. The company is belonging to his children, and on the registration paper, it is his aide, one of his aides, that is the director in the company. And these are the issues. This man should be suspended by the president to allow for an independent investigation so that the Minister of State can administer and take charge of the FCT. In fact, in Senate claim, he will have resigned.
All right.
But if he's not resigning, because this is Nigeria, there's no consequence for bad behavior, let the president suspend him so that we can have an independent and thorough investigation in the FCT.
Just to clarify, the person you're asking a suspension for is the Minister of the FCT, is that correct?
Yes, Wike should be suspended as Minister for FCT. He should be suspended.
All right.
So that an independent investigation can be conducted into the abuse of office that has taken place under him as FCT Minister.
All right.
If we're ever pretending to run a decent society and a decent country,
Yes, Wike should not have stayed a day extra after those exposure by People's Gazette. He has not denied. He has not denied the allegation. He said in his attempt to try to explain it away, he said, "Oh, where can anybody find 2,000 square meters in Asokoro or Metama?" The story said you allocated 2,000 square meters in Metama or Asokoro. He said you also allocated plot of land to them in Metama and Asokoro, but in the outskirts, where that was where the major allocations took place, and that you have gone ahead to develop facility in the places where you allocated land to your 2 children. So you cannot allocate almost 4,000 hectares. It's hectares we're talking about. That's the size of some countries. You cannot allocate 4,000 hectares of land to your 2 children. That is the only one that we know.
All right, we'll come back
to be Minister of FCTA. That's abuse of office.
Mr. Adeyanju,
and you cannot claim that, oh, your children are Nigerians.
We'll come back to the allegations, that this leaked memo has shown, or this leaked information, and then talk about the allegations of whether there was abuse of office or not. But let's go back to Mr. Sharu, who was arrested, and talk about the manner in which he has been treated and, the legality or otherwise of it. The Daily Trust reports that when asked, that the media aide to Mr. Wike, Larry Olayinka, that when he was asked why Mr. Sharu was arrested in particular, that he said issuing query to civil servants for allegedly flouting the service rules is a normal procedure. He isn't the first to be queried, and he won't be the last. So I want you to walk us through the point of arrest. What happened? How was he arrested? How was he detained? Did you and your team go to see him at the police station? We hear that he's been bailed. He's been released on bail. Can you confirm that, and what are the next steps? Let's talk about the human angle to the manner in which he was being arrested and detained, and what the next steps are. And after that, we can then go into the meat of the allegations against the Minister of the FCT.
Indeed. Yes, indeed. So basically, he was, like I said earlier, he was just arrested because he's a northerner in an office filled with southerners. So he became the prime suspect because they feel that, oh, this person is out of place. He shouldn't even be here, but he's here. So he probably is the one that leaked the memo. He was the one that leaked all the documents. And the documents are not classified. How can you say they are classified? Something that are public documents. There are things that we daily apply for. Certificate of occupancy, right of occupancy. These are public documents that people can request, that people can pay fees and get. So what is classified about the document? You cannot arrest somebody for an unknown offense, an offense that does not exist in law. Aiko and Fagbemi is a locus classicus case on that. And the Constitution has prohibited people from being arrested for crimes that do not exist. There's nothing classified about those documents. Those documents are normal documents in the ordinary course of business within the FCT. In fact, if, assuming without conceding yet again that indeed Mr. Sharu was the one that leaked the document, he should be commended for exposing corruption.
Okay, so
but he was not. He does not even have any idea.
Just to point out, I believe that you've been able to establish this earlier. I think what I'm trying to get at is, how it happened. Was he at home? Was he at office when he was being arrested? And did they keep him longer than should have been, or longer than the law requires? Has he been released on bail, and what the next steps are? I think
yes, from our interactions with him through our lawyers, we have been able to establish that police officers from the minister's office came to his office and arrested him. They were the one that took him to that outpost where he was detained for over a week. And his family nobody was informed that he was arrested. So he was kept there, and they were trying to make him to admit that he was the one that leaked the memo. And the man said, take my phone, this is the password to my phone. Check to see whether I even know what you are talking about. I have no idea what you are talking about. I'm not even knowledgeable about things like this. I don't even know what happened. So the man explained. The ordinary thing that you should have done is charge him to court within 48 hours maximum. That's what the law says. Or if you are not willing to charge him to court because you have no prima facie evidence or any substance to back up the suspicion, release him to members of his family. It was when he went missing for days The members of his family went to the office to say, where is, we have not seen him. The office people also said, we have also not seen him. Then somebody now said, oh, they came to take him. They said the minister wanted to see him. The security people came from the minister's office. That somebody, they now went upstairs to the minister's office and said, oh, yes. Somebody in the minister's office now told them that, oh, they arrested him and took him to one outpost. That was how word got out. And that was how people got to find out that, oh, the man was arrested. I think it was Omele Showore that first was informed. Immediately he was informed, he posted about it, and the agitation for his release began. And we have met him, we have discussed with him. The proper right thing to do is, he has responded, of course, to the business query that has no merit in the first place. But we are in the process of advising him to file a fundamental right enforcement procedure against the Honorable Minister, and the director that issued the query, and the people that sanctioned his arrest. Okay, and
I think the latter part of my question as well was, can you confirm, I know you said they mounted pressure for his release. Has he been released? Was there bail that needed to have been paid for that to happen?
Yes, he has been released.
Okay.
He has been released, yes.
Okay.
Yes, he has been released. Has been released some days ago.
And did they charge him to court?
Yeah, there's been no formal charge. And what can you possibly charge him to court for? I don't understand.
Also,
the man has no idea.
Also, you mentioned that they kept him at the outpost for a week.
The man has no idea about the story.
Also, you mentioned that they kept him at an outpost for about a week.
Yes, he was kept
to get him to admit. Did he admit, or did he, in his detailing of his experience to you, did he at any point admit the manner in which they were trying to get him to admit? Was there any use of force?
Yes, he said they tried to coerce him to admit that he was the one that leaked the memo the entire period that he was detained. That they kept saying that if he does not admit, he will not be released.
All right. I'd like us to look at whistleblower protection, especially here in Nigeria. This is not the first whistleblower incidents that we've seen happen. But let's use this as a case study. And being a lawyer yourself, what does this mean, especially when people go against possibly whistleblowing, as it were, issues like this to the public? Does this mean that they can be kept quiet, especially when it comes from those at the top? And therefore, what legal rights do they have? I'm sure you mentioned that he's ready to file against the FCTA. Can you break it down for us so that Nigerians who may be looking forward to also engage in whistleblowing would have to consider what really is in it for them?
Yeah, so basically the idea behind whistleblowing is if you see something wrong, say something. But when you begin to punish, but this man, unfortunately, this man is not really, he wasn't really the one that blew the whistle. The people that blew the whistle are around yesterday. There are people that are working with him, they are tired, he's giving things to students that are not benefiting. So they are the ones that are complaining. These things are too personal because if you look at the reports, they usually do it secretly. It is his security people that collect the CFO for him. They are the ones that do everything. So it's one of them that probably, I said, this man is selling the whole of Abuja to himself. We are not getting anything. But now, let me even take it that he whistleblowed in this matter. The idea behind whistleblowing policy is that the whistleblower is protected, the sanctity of his testimony, the things that he has seen, he has heard, he has perceived, that he's now revealing are protected, that the source and the channel through which he communicates these things are protected and safeguarded in order to ensure that other whistleblowers have confidence in the system that, oh, if we whistleblow, our identity will not be revealed, and that we will also receive protection under the law. Because the idea behind the whistleblowing policy is to ensure that we fight corruption holistically and aggressively to curb corruption. That because if we don't kill corruption, corruption will eventually kill our economy, it will kill our national lives, and it will ruin our treasury. So that is the idea behind the whistleblower policy. and it is aimed at ensuring that the whistleblower does not come under any reprisal, persecution, or witch hunt. And that is why even it is always encouraged as universal best practices that even when the whistleblower, in his attempt to expose corruption, when the information he gives turns out to be inaccurate, that the government must still protect him and must not persecute him. But once you begin to persecute whistleblowers, you discourage them from exposing corruption, and because it's like victim blaming. They are victims of the corruption of the system. They are trying to expose how bad the system are. Then you begin to victim blame them, and you begin to witch hunt them, and it does not help the fight against corruption.
I just want to ask: Is he taking the FCTA, especially the minister, to court? You had mentioned something like that. You want to highlight?
Process of convincing him to do so. Okay. We're in the process of convincing him to do so. The problem with many of our citizens is that, especially civil servants, once they have been intimidated and oppressed, you understand, they tend to cower. They tend to, because the idea of challenging the establishment and the system, especially for somebody who is very laid back, who is just in his quiet corner, just doing his job, is not even aware of the issues, what the issues are. And it's just a civil servant doing his job quietly. Unfortunately, he has now been caught in this whole unpleasant web of the magnanimous corruption of the FCT minister. So that is, and that is why we are having a difficult time to convince him. Then we'll keep at it and see how if we can convince him so that he can file a fundamental rights enforcement against the minister and the
Now, Mr. Adeyanju, what does this incident say about the civic space in Nigeria and civil liberties? Is it that we have laws for certain sets of people, and that the law can be weaponized to go against those that are not powerful in society? And what legal recourse can we use to address this fundamental injustice?
Of course, the civic space continues to shrink and even shrink furthermore in the country. This is what we've been battling with, this is what we've been talking about, this is what we've been agitating about, on the need for us to have, there's a bill before the National Assembly for human rights defenders. We need to have legislative and institutional framework in place that can take care of many of these problems, the problems confronting the civic space in the country. Because while it is considered that the media is the fourth realm, of any republic, the media needs the civic space to even protect itself and even the nation. And whether you like it or not, the civic space is that space, supposed to be a free space where people can air their grievances. So many things threaten the civic space today. Institutional oppression, where you find a situation like what has happened in the instant case with the FCT minister, where he used the instrumentality of the state at his disposal to intimidate someone who was suspected to have leaked some documents, which are by and large public documents anyway, and again, you find a situation where many of them use this Cybercrime Act to repress, to further shrink the civic space by preventing people from expressing their views, from freedom of thought, conscience, and also freedom of expression. Right. We have found a situation where this state minister even used institutional frameworks and tried to use the court to restrict protesters to the National Stadium, trying to restrict freedom of assembly in the FCTA. So these are the threats to civic space and the freedoms that citizens should naturally enjoy in what has been universally considered as the Bill of Rights, which is our fundamental rights enforcement chapter 4 of our Constitution.
All right, Mr. Adeyanju, let's now go to the meat of the allegations that led to this, or that supposedly led to these arrests. The allegations of the FCT minister giving land to his sons. Lewe Olayinka, the spokesperson for the FCT minister, has disregarded these allegations as false. We are looking to have him also come and speak on this. But he's spoken about the memo. He said that the document, and you have spoken so strongly about the FCT minister's sons and the FCT minister being linked to these lands. He said that the document presented as evidence showed that the lands were allocated to Joak farms in Buari Area Council. And then he said when the fresh report, of course, came out that talked about a different set of plots that were allocated to another applications, Jordan, he dismissed this fresh report and he said that the land was allocated to Jordan Farms and Estates Limited. He claimed that Wike and his children had no links to the company, and in this statement, he gave an example. In a statement signed by him, he said, even though like other Nigerians, it's the right of the children of the minister, his friends, associates, and relatives to own lands anywhere in the country, including the FCT, provided all necessary conditions are met. As at today, no land has been allocated to any of the minister's children. No doubt, land was duly allocated to Jordan Farms and Estates Limited, a company duly registered in Nigeria with none of the children of the FCT minister as director of the company. That one of the sons of the FCT minister is Jordan, and that there is a company named Jordan Farms and Estates Limited is no reason to say or to conclude that the company belongs to Wike's son. In the UK, there is Jordan Farms. Is the company also owned by Wike's sons? So this is his explanation that he has given as to explain why it is not the FCT minister that has allocated these properties and that the FCT minister's sons are not in any way connected to this. But you say that you have proof. So can you please share with us?
You know, Larry Olayinka is not someone I want to respond to. He's a jobless person. He has always been jobless. All he does is to defend people that can pay him. He will say anything to defend anybody just to feed. So I don't want to join issues with someone like that. If you ask me about what Wike said, I can respond to that. Wike's interview is clear. He said there is no 2,000 hectares in Maitama or Asokoro, and that his children are Nigerians. They can get land. The land, the company that the land was allocated to, the name of the children of the man. The director is Wike's aide. The companies belong to Wike's children. What are we talking about, for God's sake? So we shouldn't be here and look at it's obvious. Just go on CAC and search for this company on CAC. Who is the director? The director is Chinda, is Wike's aide. The land belongs to Wike's children, for God's sake. Why are we here and we are acting as if we don't know what is happening in this country? The man has abused his office. Why should you even be allocating thousands of hectares of land for your children? That is the issue. We should not be deflecting or deviating from the issue. And if it is not true, why are you arresting people who you accused of leaking the landed documents, the CFO or the RFO of the document? Well, okay, why are you arresting people if the allegation is not true?
But the second part of that was, how do we know for sure?
What we should be focused on.
How do we know for sure that the people who instituted the arrest city minister?
We have gone beyond establishing that the land belongs to Wike's children. What we should be talking, because I will not spend quality time discussing facts that are not in issues that are not in controversy. It is established that this land belongs to his children until he brings evidence to the contrary to disprove that this land are not his children. Let the person, his aide, who is the director of the company, let the person come and debunk that the land.
Oh, his aide, we are definitely reaching out to his aide.
That the land belongs to him.
Larry Olayinka to come and respond to this. But I wanted to ask, my final question would be, you had mentioned the people who did the arrest. If you can maybe confirm, share with us how you can confirm that these arrests were instituted by the FCT minister.
If you want me to respond to Larry Olayinka, it will never happen.
Okay, no, I'm not asking you to respond to him now. I'm not asking, Mr. Adeyanju, I'm not asking you to respond to him. I just want you to clarify something you had mentioned earlier. You mentioned that the people who made the arrest... I'm not clarifying, as long as it is... This is not about Larry Olayinka. This is not about Larry Olayinka. If you may please allow me land.
What I'm saying is... No. What I'm saying is what the FCT minister has said. The FCT minister has not denied the allegation.
All right.
So why are we here saying,
the question I'm asking, the final question I'm asking is...
Yes, no. Let it come out.
Mr. Adeyanju, the final question I'm asking is in relation to what you said when you were narrating the story at the beginning. You said that they had come to pick him up and that you found out that these people were from the FCT minister. I'm asking how we confirmed that the people who made the arrest were from the FCT minister.
He told us he that was arrested told us that they came from the FCT minister's office, and we asked him that is he so person? He said yes, he's the one. They just told him that they should go, and they took him upstairs. From upstairs, they took him to the outpost. So they were from the security aides of the minister. And Omele Sowore has told you that even the ADC to the FCT minister said they arrested him. They have not denied it. So we should not, issues that are not in controversy are deemed admitted.
Okay,
so we should not be discussing
issues that
are not in controversy. We should be on demanding that the Wike should be suspended as minister, and that the Minister of State should take over so that an independent investigation can be conducted.
Okay. All right. Mr. Adeyanju, thank you so much. We're out of time, but I just wanted to answer this very quickly, please, because we're really out of time. You had cajoled and asked your partner to support the ADC, of which you are very strong in supporting the newly, you could put it together, converged party. Can you share with us why you are in support of the ADC and why you think that they would be the force to beat, especially at the coming 2027 elections, very quickly?
Basically, very simple. Every democracy needs a viral opposition. The country will suffer if there's no viral opposition. And I don't know why the government is doing all it can to kill opposition, to sponsor divisions in opposition political party. If you've done well, why are you doing that? We should allow a viral opposition to exist in the country. You understand? There is no gainsaying the fact that whether anybody likes it or not today, we have a weak opposition in the country. We've had a weak opposition in the last 2 years. So it benefits even both the incumbent government when we have a viral opposition in the country. And that is the reason why I urge Omele Sowore that he should consider the idea. I'm not saying he must. He should consider the idea of being part of the so-called coalition.
All right. Deji Adeyanju, thank you for joining us this morning, and thank you for your time and sharing from your experience and wealth of knowledge regarding this matter. We'll continue to follow up. We'll give the representative of the minister the right of response, and we'll continue this conversation. Thank you for your time.
Thank
you.
Well, quite a heated conversation this morning, and we do hope to extend an invitation to the aide to the Minister of the FCT, Larry Olayinka. A number of strong statements have been made, and it would be great to have them come on the show and clarify, defend, or present a counter evidence as to why Nigerians should believe what their position is. But let's quickly take you through the news. We'll bring you the breakfast headlines, and then we'll share with you what's coming up next. We begin breakfast headlines this morning with the legislative arm of government in Nigeria, where tension is brewing in the Senate today as a possible showdown looms between Senate leadership and suspended Kogi Central lawmaker Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. Now, this follows a viral video where Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan, hailed by cheering supporters, announced plans to return to the Red Chamber today, despite her suspension. She thanked her constituents for their unwavering support after a federal high court ruled in her favor last Friday. The court nullified her 6-month suspension, calling it excessive, unconstitutional, and a violation of her constituents' rights. The ruling ordered her immediate reinstatement. We'll be moving on now to labor matters. The Nigerian Labour Congress has threatened to embark on nationwide protests over the rising insecurity, poverty, and high cost of living crisis in the country. NLC, in a communique signed by its president, Joe Ajaero, and the General Secretary, Emmanuel Ugboaja, said the almost 700,000 lives lost in just a year to insecurity in Nigeria can only happen in nations at war. It warned that Nigerian workers would no longer be sitting idly by while the nation's economy and democracy crumbles. Similarly, the leadership of the Academic Staff Union of Universities has issued a directive for all branches of the union nationwide to withdraw their services over the delay in the payment of June 2025 salaries to its members. ASU branches in 2 federal universities, the Universities of Jos and Abuja, have already commenced industrial action in compliance with the directive. President of ASU, Professor Chris Piuna, who confirmed the development in Abuja, said the institutions are doing what is simply enforcing a National Executive Council resolution of the union that members should withdraw their services in any month in which salaries are delayed beyond 3 days until the salaries are paid. In the meantime, the Nigerian Medical Association has issued a 21-day ultimatum to the federal government demanding the withdrawal of a recently released circular by the National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission, while describing the content as a potential threat to Nigeria's already fragile healthcare system. The Kwara State chairman of the NMA, Professor Abdulrahman Afolabi, presented a 19-point demand urging the federal government to address doctors' welfare. The association accused the NSIWC of acting in bad faith and violating long-standing collective bargaining agreements signed in 2001, 2009, and 2014. The Nigerian Meteorological Agency, NIMET, has issued a flood alert for the month of July, warning that several states across the country face a heightened risk of flash flooding as rainfall intensifies. According to the agency's advisory released on Monday, Sokoto State tops the list with a high risk of flash floods, while other states including Lagos, Benue, Edo, and Kaduna are also flagged for significant flood threats. NIMET's July 2025 forecast identifies multiple states with varying degrees of risk due to the ongoing rainy season. Areas listed include Zamfara, Yobe, Bauchi, Bayelsa, Jigawa, Adamawa, Taraba, Niger, Nasarawa, Ogun, Ondo, Delta, Cross River, Rivers, and Akwa Ibom. Let's move outside Nigeria to Guinea, where more than 24 human rights organizations are demanding the country's ruling junta release information about two prominent activists who vanished 1 year ago. Umar Sila, widely known as Fonik Menge, and Mamadou Bilouba, both leaders of the pro-democracy group FNDC, disappeared in July 2024 in the capital Conakry. According to the FNDC, the two men were violently taken by armed individuals, an act the group has condemned as a kidnapping. At the time, Guinea's public prosecutor denied that they were in custody and promised an investigation. But rights groups say that a year later, no details have been made public and the fate of the activists remains unknown. The organizations are also pressing authorities to come forward with information about another missing figure, journalist Habib Marwane Kamara, who has not been seen since December 2024. And that's all at this hour. Thank you very much for joining us on Breakfast Headlines. We now continue with Breakfast Central.
Welcome back. Breakfast Central continues our final lap. It's time to find out what the big stories are saying, especially on the front pages of the newspapers. Our guest is actually the publisher, of course, of the newspaper, Mr. Ikechukwu Amechi, who is solidly right in the studios like a rock, ready and steady.
You, sir. Always
yes.
a pleasure.
Yes.
To have you
always
on
a pleasure.
Distinguished high table of ours.
Okay.
The pleasure is mine, Joe. How are
Welcome. Well, we're doing great. We're doing great. Olive is also here. But let's take a look at our papers. We'll go straight into it because we have a lot to really discuss. I know you've not touched on some of the latest stories. So our very first paper, let's look at the Punch, which happens to be the first paper we're looking at. Fire 2027. Firestorm as APC coalition battle for Northern ADC leaders. We hear that ADC accuses federal government of backroom deals with Northern leaders. APC fumes. That's what's going on now. We also have more stories as well. Let's take a look at this one. 20 states at risk despite 620 billion naira intervention. NIMET forecasts flooding in Lagos, Edo, Benue, 17 others in July.
But Joe, NIMET said, yes.
States face scrutiny over 620 billion naira ecological fund. So where is the money?
Are they really using this ecological fund? Another thing, I don't know if scientifically you can hold them to it. Olive, NIMET said we're going to experience 5 straight days of rain, starting from yesterday. As at 9:15 this morning, we have not witnessed it.
It's okay. We'll get there. Let's focus on the first story. I'd like our guests to actually jump in on the firestorm as APC coalition battle for Northern ADC leaders. First of all, I'd like you to give us a complete look into this ADC, APC back and forth fight ahead of the 2027 elections.
Well, it is nothing unusual, if you ask me. It is to be expected. Before what happened last week, it was as if APC was going to have an easy ride. It was as if we are almost at the cusp of being a one-party state. Despite everything, you see opposition political leaders, particularly some governors on the platform of the PDP, defecting to the APC. Members of the National Assembly defecting to the APC. So much so that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had to, at a stage, boast when they adopted him, when APC adopted him as their sole candidate, as it should be for the 2027 elections. He was almost boasting that there is no longer opposition in the country. And then, out of the blues in the sense that not many people expected that the opposition leaders would come together as they did last week. Because you know, and we said it on this platform, there were three tendencies in the opposition camp before last week. There were those who, led by former governor of Kaduna State, Nasiru El-Rufai, who wanted the opposition leaders to join the Social Democratic Party. Then there were those who wanted the ADC as a platform to adopt. And there was also a group within the opposition camp that wanted the registration of a new political party altogether. It's as if they also found out that INEC was not prepared to register any new political party. INEC was going to sabotage that move. So what was the choice left for them? Either go into SDP. Some people have also said, and I think it is right, that the SDP is a default party of the president. And going into that, walking into that trap, will be so unimaginative, will be so naive that the consequences would have been that the opposition would have come dead on arrival. So they chose for the ADC. And you know, the sheer number of leaders from across board, APC, from APC, you find an 80-something-year-old former chairman of APC, Chief John Oyego, former governor of Edo State, being part of the coalition that went into ADC. You find former Senate President David Mark, and of course, not talk of Atiku, Nasiru El-Rufai, leaving SDP now to also come into ADC. And then former Minister of Transportation, Amechi. But most of all, Mr. Peter Obi, former governor of Anambra State and the 2023 presidential candidate of the Labour Party, and his running mate coming into the fold. He jolted the government, as he should. And of course, that's why you are seeing all these brick bars, everybody trying to. If you ask me, I would say that what the government has done in the last how many days is more like a group that is jittery. Because that,
but their statements don't sound like that. They call them internally displaced politicians. They were dismissive in their reactions. On the surface, they don't look like they're paying them any attention.
On the surface, yes. But those things are acts of desperation. What do you do? In my place, they say when a rat escapes from a little boy in a chasing it, he says, "Anna, go away. You are pardon my this, and you are a shit rat." So they didn't expect this. They didn't expect the kind of unity that was exhibited on that day. So all they have to say is that they are desperados, they are this, they are those who hate the president. It didn't be so. And of course, politics is not a game of love. In any case, when the legacy parties came together in 2014 to form the APC, did they love President Jonathan? So it is neither here nor there. It is almost infantile to talk about hating President Tinubu. These are people who are saying we have what Nigerians expect from them is to know what vision, the agenda they have, and how that agenda is different from what President Bola Tinubu and the APC is presenting to them now. So if the votes of the people will count in 2027, it is now left for the people to decide whether to still go for APC, having seen what they have done in the last 4 years under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and then, or look the other way and say, okay, these other people, these are the promises you've made, and based on the track record of what we know about one or two people, then it might be a different thing altogether. So I am happy that at last the government, look, then what the reaction of the government is showing, that at least acknowledging that there is an opposition out there now that they can take serious, that there is an opposition out there now that could give them a good run for their money come 2027. So it's a good thing.
Let's look at another story on the front page of the Punch newspapers. ASU branches suspend lectures over delayed June salaries. Today is just the 8th of July. I know, I mean, I say this with all sense of responsibility, but is it not too early? You give a warning and maybe there's some technical glitch, because I don't understand why people should work for 30 days and the barest minimum you could do is to pay them their salaries. But is it too early for ASU to take industrial action and down tools at this stage?
I don't know what this is all about, but I think there must be more to it than meets the eye. Like you said, today is 8th. So if there's in arrears, it's not enough, in my own thinking, to take a drastic action of saying down tools, don't go to work, unless there are some underlying issues. But if it is only because of the June salary, I think it is a little bit hasty. Are there no other forms of
alternative dispute resolution? Yeah.
Exactly. Has also communicated to the government, and the government said it's not going to pay. What are the reasons for late payment of the June salary? It would have been a different thing if they are saying they have not been paid in the last 2, 3, 4 months, but that it is 8 days in arrears. I don't think it's enough, because look, for each time you down tools, there are consequences for the students, for the university environment, and even for the country. When students are supposed to be in school and you automatically shut down teaching and of course learning, I think it has a whole lot of implications. But like I said, unless there are other underlying issues they have not told us, But if it is that there are, yes, at the end of the month, a worker deserves to earn his pay. And for the government to where officials are flaunting Rolls Royce and all that, I think it is unethical. It's almost inhuman not to pay lecturers, Nigerian lecturers, even the patronage sum.
Even the Bible says it.
Even the patronage sum
of his wages.
that they are being paid. But whether it is enough that in 8 days, because it has not been paid to down tools, I am saying it might be an overreaction.
Okay. I'm also concerned about our friends in St. Lucia that have been offered scholarships. If they're watching this now, they'll be saying, they've down tools or they're on strike. They've not paid their lecturers. Maybe I should not take this scholarship to Moshood Abiola Polytechnic. Anyway, let's take a look at the paper very quickly. Vanguard newspapers. Yeah. The headline says 2027 presidency plotting to destabilize us. ADC alleges they've ringed the alarm. The writer says claims top government officials summoned ex-petty chairman to secret meeting, aggrieved ADC members, drag Mark Agbesola and others to court. I mean, how old is this this coalition that they're already talking about court cases? Power blocks may crash ADC. Almost warns. Babachi Lawal dumps APC, ex-Kaduna PDP chair joins ADC. PDP Board of Trustees member Waziri joins ADC. What do you make of this new plot? And they will say it's not a new thing for the APC, the ruling party, to be accused of destabilizing other parties when they don't put their homes in order. It's become, like Mr. President said, a convenient boogeyman. So what do you make of this? Is there any...
It is not a surprise, and it shouldn't surprise any discerning Nigerian political observer. I would have been surprised if the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not doing everything within its powers to ensure that this ADC does not hit the ground running. But look, let's be fair, it didn't start today. Right all through the history of this Fourth Republic, starting right from 1999 when President Olusegun Obasanjo became president, all he did was to destabilize the other political parties, AMPP,
Alliance for Democracy,
yeah, and all that. So much so that it got to a stage, again, if not for this same Bola Ahmed Tinubu that persevered and left AD to form AC, then the opposition would have collapsed completely. So President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the APC, they know what they are doing. So if the coalition, the ADC, is saying that the government is doing everything to stabilize them, I believe them. But the truth is that it behoves the opposition leaders, because they should know better. They should know that there is no way they will come out the way they came out smoking without a response now from the government. And the response now from the government will not be to cuddle them. It won't be to embrace them. The response of a government that is seeing its hold on power slipping away, as it were, if they do nothing, will be to destroy. Of course, the next battle will be in court. Some elements in the ADC have gone to court. We will see the role the judiciary will play at the end of the day. But it will be a long-drawn battle. It will be a long-drawn battle.
Could that be the reason why they're also in registration, pushing for the registration of ADA? So just in case.
That was the way they ought to have gone. But like I said earlier, I think they had the inkling that the Mahmoud Yakubu-led INEC may not be in a mood to register.
I saw what you did there.
Mahmoud may not be in the mood.
I saw what you did there.
May not be in the mood to register a new political party. So their best choice was to collapse into an existing political party. But the Katikus, who was the presidential candidate of ADC in 2023,
yes,
of course has his own agenda. You know, one bad thing that has happened in this political dispensation is that we have a situation where you don't even know who actually is running for election. You don't know who is being sponsored by the government in power to destabilize the opposition, to fragment the opposition. I don't want to believe that the presidential candidate of the ADC in 2023, Dumebi or what?
Dumebi
Kachuku. I may be wrong, but I don't think that he ran on his own steam. It is something that has been going on in Lagos since whenever. Every election year, you see somebody out of the blues will join the PDP. Mostly people from the opposition party or the ruling party in the state, purporting to have broken from the party, and at the end of the day, it turns out that they were sponsored to come and destabilize the PDP. And it just happened in the last election where the man who came and took the ticket of the PDP has gone back to the APC. So those are the things you see even at federal level. It got to a stage when, I think it was under Obasanjo, when Chief Femi went to court. Obasanjo didn't want more political parties, but when Chief Femi went to court to say that it is the right of the people to form political parties, the government of the day now helped them to form as many political parties as possible. Most of the political parties that were formed then were sponsored by the government of the PDP. So that is the thing that is going on. I don't see why Kachuku should go to court over what? It is a plot to destabilize ADC, and it does not go beyond the government of the day. But like I said earlier, it behoves the people to say enough is enough. It behoves the people to say, no, we won't take this. Because without a virile opposition, this country will go nowhere. We need to have an alternative that we say, okay, if this is the vision of the government in power and we feel it is not working for the people, we could go the other way. But where it is that whether you like it or not, willy-nilly, this government must be in power because there's nobody to oppose it, then we are headed to not only a full-blown dictatorship, to a state that is failing on all fours.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, I want us to take another story. This time I want us to look at the Punch newspaper. On the front page of the Punch, the bottom left, U.S. Embassy begins screening Nigerian students' social media accounts. I think that that's an important story to take. Last week, we shared the story of a young businesswoman who went for a trade fair in America and wasn't allowed to go beyond the airport. Turns out, according to the reports, that they checked her social media account and saw that she was going for the exhibition. She had a B1, B2 visa, but she had done a video telling all her customers to come there. So we don't quite know what exactly happened. But many of the speculations are that the visa maybe should not have allowed her to trade. But the directive came some weeks back that everyone should open their social media. What does this mean now for us?
What it means for us is that Nigerians, in fact, in spite of what the US government is doing, Nigerians should be mindful of what they do or do not do on the social media. The way we use social media is injurious to us as people. And you know, the internet does not forget.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, some of the things people do on social media, some of the things they say, you ask yourself, what is this all about? And you know, at a time of heightened insecurity, global insecurity, if you are mindful of some of the things in the fight against terrorism in the U.S., now, for instance, the first thing, when a crime is committed and the suspect is identified, the first thing they do is to go into his social media activities and find out what he's been doing. And almost 99.9% of the time, you find out that there is something in the social media that actually betrays the
or motivation for the action.
Accused. So Nigerians should be careful. Our people are almost abusing the social media, and that should not be so. The social media has its own advantages. It has revolutionized the way things are done, the way news is produced and consumed. It has also revolutionized the way businesses are conducted. There are people who are multimillionaires today simply because of the social media. But it also has its own downside. And people should be very, very careful. It is also good that this story is coming out. You don't need to want to travel to the US for you to be mindful.
To be a responsible social media user.
To be a responsible social media.
But I think another concern is what are they looking for?
They said it's for national security.
Well, so is it 100% national security? Is there a possibility that if you shared an opinion and maybe an anti-government
somebody shared a meme of the Vice President J.D. Vance as a baby, just funny video. The Norwegian citizen was already in the U.S. They deported him.
Exactly. So for a country that is a free country, that is they're always very pro-freedom, pro-rights, pro-democracy.
A lot of things, Olive, a lot of things changed under Donald Trump. It will be erroneous for anybody to think that the America of today is the America of yesterday. It is not. Donald Trump, I'm sorry to say, but he's done everything to tell you he's not a Democrat. He's done everything to tell you that he does not believe in the fundamental freedoms that have driven America so far. In fact, those freedoms are receding under him. Donald Trump is a dictator, through and through.
Yes, so, and just to follow up on what you said, sorry to cut in short, because I want to bring it back home. And the front page of the Vanguard says Nigeria's export drive in danger as Trump plans 10% tariff against BRICS. Yeah. After President Tinubu left St. Lucia, he hopped onto the next destination, Brazil, and they're meeting there. Now he's threatening us with 10% extra tariff, and we know we export, we do business with the United States. He says any country aligning themselves with anti-American policies of BRICS will be charged. So we're in a problem here.
Trump is threatening everybody.
This is gangster diplomacy, as some have called it.
Trump is threatening the entire world. So, and I don't think his policies are auguring well, even for the United States. As for the entire world, it is almost, the man has almost destabilized the world in terms of trade, in terms of everything that kept the world together. Donald Trump has made nonsense of the global order that was instituted after the Second World War. Let us see how far he can go. But the truth of the matter is that Nigerians, they need to be careful. Like I said earlier, even if you don't want to travel to the US, the way we use the social media, I think needs to be redefined. Whatever it is that Trump is looking for, are not necessarily, you may not have committed any crime. I'm sure that if what I'm saying now goes into the social media and the man sees
Very
it,
true.
he may say,
you were critical.
never come to America.
Let him go to China.
So it is as bad as that. But at the end of the day, he may also find out that the world does not need America as much as he thinks that without America,
it's not heaven.
The entire world will collapse. People are moving on.
We live in a multipolar world now.
People are moving on. The Chinese are moving on. The big
Brazilian, Russians, Indians, China
nations are moving on in spite of America.
Okay.
Their economies are still growing in spite of the so-called tariff. And of course, you find that he is even stuck on the issue of the tariff. And that's why he continues now postponing.
Okay.
We're almost due for another one, another night.
Exactly.
Yeah, he will move it forward again.
Anyway.
I think he has already done that. He says now it is going to be in August.
All right, let's move to another story. But this time around, we're going to take this story and share what Nigerians are saying after this short interruption. Welcome back to Breakfast Central. This is what Nigerians are saying. Peter Obi visited a College of Nursing in Edo State. It is the Philomena College of Nursing. And in a post on social media, he made a thoughtful statement where he says, for Nigeria to truly develop, we must prioritize healthcare, education, and poverty alleviation, core pillars that define every progressive nation. He goes ahead to say it's in line with this commitment that I visited Philomena College of Nursing Sciences in Benin City, Edo State, an institution I have consistently supported for its vital role in strengthening our healthcare system. To aid their ongoing work in training dedicated nurses and improving healthcare delivery, I made a modest contribution of 15 million naira. Such investments are among the most effective ways to build a better future. I thank the management, staff, and students for their warm welcome and commend their dedication. A new Nigeria will emerge when we invest in our people and lift them out of poverty. A new Nigeria is possible. Signed, Peter Obi. There was a video as well that emerged as to how he was being received. Let's take a look at this video. And we'll come back to take some tweets after that. Okay, unfortunately, we do not have the video ready. But there was a video where there was a lot of pomp and pageantry and people made comparison with how he was being received as against how the First Lady was received by the School of Nursing, not the College of Nursing. But let's take a look at the tweets as people have reacted to his visit and are starting to share their thoughts. Our first tweet is from Mr. Reply. He says, arranged welcome. We know as all of them they do. Next. And the next tweet says, we will have to investigate the source of your wealth. Unless these are audio donations, where do you get your money to donate consistently? And it says Badru. I've always seen that Badru, but I don't really know what it means. Real change begins with people. Investing in nurses today means saving lives tomorrow. Human capital is Nigeria's greatest untapped resource. That is from King J. And the next tweet is from Juan Lambert, who says, Nadia Papa be this, so them not get another one. Nadia Baba Bidiso. The next tweet is from Ekianya, who says, I will advise many young Nigerians to enter School of Nursing against 2027 because if this man becomes president, now nurses go enjoy a pass. This man too like them. These are some of the tweets and the reactions. Let's get your thoughts about this.
From journalism to nursing, so you can benefit one.
Well, I have to go to St. Lucia. I like their salary.
That's
I like
a good
their
one.
salary. It's much, 131 million naira per annum. Sweet.
Okay,
huge block.
But let's get Mr. Meshi to react to this.
No, see, it goes without saying, whether you like Peter Obi or not, he has been outstanding as a Nigerian politician. He's been selfless and he's been very innovative and creative in the way he is playing opposition politics in this country. And somebody tweeted that the source of his wealth should be investigated. Yeah, the truth of the matter is that Peter is a wealthy man. And he was wealthy. Peter had been chairman of banks and many companies before he even became governor.
Savannah Bank.
And, no, Fidelity Bank.
Fidelity, sorry. Yeah.
And he has been consistent. And Peter Obi does not indulge in some of the things, some of the wasteful expenses. It's not as if there are people who throw parties every weekend that take more than 10, 20 million naira. You won't see Peter throwing parties, but he is investing in human capital development.
I mean, I saw a video where he was on a podcast talking about how he built Savannah Bank branches while in university. When being asked, the source of
you should even watch Yule Edochie's movie, Peter Obi.
It's okay.
It's on YouTube.
Oh, wow.
Don't go there.
So we really have to out of the studio now. But congratulations to the College of Nursing Students, College of Nursing Students in Edo State, and we look forward to seeing more. 15 million is a very generous donation.
And they should manage it well.
I hope that they do.
And they should manage it well. That's a worthwhile investment.
And that's all I have on today's show. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back again same time tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye. Remember, the Minister of the FCTA will be replying tomorrow, so tune in. Bye-bye.